This is Anchor Your Retirement with Barbara Gulin from Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Barbara Gulin provides her clients and prospects the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful strategies to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now here is Anchor Your Retirement with Barbara Gulin.
Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Gulin, and I have kicked Tony Shore out of the room and brought in one of my best buddies in the insurance industry, and I'm proud of her friend. Folks, I want you to meet Nikki Foley.
Oh, Barb, thanks so much for having me here today.
I am so excited. You realize we met each other like almost 16 years ago?
I was going to go there. It was 2008, I believe.
It was when Gradient Gives Back launched.
That's right. That's right.
Back when it was a national deal and Ranthick was the national spokesperson. And I remember because you walked past me and I hadn't officially met you yet and you knew my name.
Can we say that Bill Rancic brought us together?
Let's do that. Thanks, Bill.
Oh, how fun.
Blame it on him.
Yeah.
But gosh, it has been so fun over the last 16 years to watch the kids grow up.
That's where I was going to go, to watch your girls grow up.
And Vegas, when I saw you pregnant with was that number one or number two?
Number two.
Number two. And I didn't know that little person was coming. And it was like, my gosh. And you have always been a champion for the women in this industry.
Well, I think that I have to look to you to say you have also led the way in this and been a huge advocate.
Well, and I think that we have a tremendous mentor in Tammy Lucius.
There you go. Agree.
We
100%.
have to give her a shout out here.
Yes, absolutely.
But you and I both have a heart and a passion for helping women understand finance. And not only encouraging the women that are in the industry, but realizing that even if you're not in the industry, at some point, more than likely, you are going to be in charge of not just the day-to-day bills, but the investing.
Absolutely. And as we were, walking here together today, Barb, we talked a little bit about how I really look at the financial services industry from more of a wealth management perspective. Mm-hmm. It is not investment management.
No.
There's so much more to it, especially as you start looking at how women age and their medical needs and their longevity. And we could go on and on.
And the income gap and the fact that more than likely it's the woman that's the unpaid caregiver in the sandwich generation. It's the woman more often than not that comes home and stays with the kids. And those 5 to 7 years, maybe longer if they have more than a couple of kids, that they're not putting money into something for their retirement at the beginning in their younger years, really erodes their potential for solvency and to have that comparable nest egg to their husband later on in life.
Yeah, we were just with a client last week, and they are both, they're probably mid-40s, and she is considering not working, but she's so hesitant to actually do that. And she's agreed to go part-time, but she's not going to stop working because of exactly what you said. She does not want to let go of that freedom and flexibility that comes along with having a paycheck and, putting that to work for her over time. But yet it's the juggle of, they only have one kid. She's in 4th grade and she is, weighing all the pros and cons.
Well, and having the autonomy, because realistically, ladies who are listening to this, if you're on the younger side of things, you're one car accident away from your life being turned on its head.
Yeah.
And, I am a little bit older than you.
Not much.
But I also have friends that are a little bit older than I am. One of whom hasn't been in the workforce in close to 30 years. and her husband lost his job. Thankfully he has a new job coming, but in that season was considering getting a job potentially to help out with cash flow, and realizing that even though she has a college education and she was very successful in her own right, and she is computer literate and all those things. I mean, it's not like she put her brain on a shelf for the last 30 years, but realizing that the marketability had changed so much, and realizing that if something catastrophic happens, there's a whole lot that has to change really, really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's no fault. Everybody takes their own natural role in the family dynamics. And so you do what the family demands at the moment, but oftentimes that does put the female in that caregiver role. It's a very natural role for many women to take that, but then you're making other decisions along the way when you do that. And those are long-term decisions, and just knowing what role that's going to play when you make the decision today in 10 years or 20 years and 30 years. And it's scary.
Yeah. So let's take a few minutes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the women who are in their 20s, 30s, maybe even early 40s that are considering changing their position in the workforce, or that did change their position in the workforce. Let's go back and forth and trade ideas about what we would tell those women to do to help them in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great.
I would go first.
Well, we'll put me on the spot here, but that's fine, because I think that one thing is to remain educated and remain active in what's going on in the household from a knowledge level. Oftentimes, in our household, as an example, I take care of the day-to-day. Jeff takes care of the big picture investment management side of things. And I think that is a very typical split among a household. Women are responsible for the consumer spending side of things.
Right. Well, we don't send our husbands to the grocery store,
we don't.
Because they're going to come home lovingly. We love you guys. We really do. But they're going to come home with like bags of chips and maybe some hot dogs.
Or we might get 3 calls along the way, clarification of what we're looking for.
Well, but that's assuming that we've sent them with a list.
There we go. There we go.
There are very few men that you can send to the grocery store and expect autonomy and have them click through what we would need for a week or for a snowstorm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think point in that being is, remain active no matter what that role might look like, or if for whatever reason it might not work for you to maintain one of those roles, have recurring meetings with your partner and spouse so that you can stay up to speed on what is happening. And this is going to sound like my husband and I are big nerds here, but I will tell you how much I loved it. So being financial advisors, he put together a financial plan for us a couple years ago for Christmas. And that was my gift to me. But it was so important that we did that. And we keep up with it. And so we do recurring meetings on an annual basis to look at our own finances, and being a part of that and participating in that is really important.
It really is. I think what women in that age group need to do is they forget to maintain their own credit independence. You need a bank account that has your name on it. Okay. And, you understand the dynamics of your marriage and your spouse. Have conversations around this, but it's important that you also have a credit card that is in your name and not necessarily just joint.
Barb, I'll tell you 2 stories that are mutual people that we know, that the wife has taken on the caregiver role. And in 2 scenarios, separate families, the wife did not maintain that. And they went to buy a cell phone, or they went to do the mortgage on the home, and there wasn't credit there.
Right.
And that is something that just, baffling, but you do have to actually that life happens to us.
Yeah.
And so being very aware, I think, is a big deal.
Let's not forget that the generation before me, women couldn't get a credit card without their husband's permission. Okay. That makes my head spin in ways that I don't even want to fathom, but we take for granted the autonomy that we have as women now. but it's our responsibility to maintain that and to keep that independent credit profile. I don't want you to go into your marriage assuming that it's going to end in divorce. Okay. I want it to be forever for you. But like I said, you're a car accident away from everything being turned upside down. I'm from Kansas City, and I think it might have actually made national news a couple of months ago when we had a police officer that was killed in the line of duty because he worked for a very small municipality within the metro area that normally didn't have those situations. And he responded to a call in a neighboring community, and there was a shootout, and he was killed. He was 28 years old, and his wife, and he had 2 or 3 kids. His wife was a stay-at-home mom. I mean, with a police officer schedule, it's a little bit wonky, and it can be a challenge to continue to work outside the home when you have that scenario. But she was in a situation where he only had like 5 or 6 years with the force. He hadn't been on for very long. Life-changing issue. And I will say, if you decide to stay home, more power to you. I did it for a while. Okay. And this is me preaching from experience as much as anything else. If you're going to be that stay-at-home spouse, you can still contribute to a traditional or income permitting a Roth IRA when your spouse has earned income. So I would encourage you this year, you can do 6,500.
Oh gosh.
They just changed it. The catch-up provision is still 1,000. So I think they took it up to 6,500. If you're under the age of 50, $1,000 catch-up for the year you turn 50 or greater. You owe it to your future self to put that, make the sacrifices now, even if it means you pick up a side gig in Instacart or, help, trade babysitting with another mom so that you've got the time to do that kind of thing.
That was my next point, Barb. We're on the same page here. It's, taking advantage of time being on your side and that compounding interest, because there's an example we use with younger investors that we see from time to time of, investing for just 10 years from the age of 25 to 35 can be significant when you go to retire at 65 versus potentially waiting till those kids get into school or whatever it might be, waiting till you're 35. You have to invest a heck of a lot longer. Do it when you're young, figure out how to take advantage of it.
Well, and as a mom, you got to train up the next generation. And, my daughter got married a little over a year ago, but before then she went to work for a company that offered a 401k. Prior to then, she had not worked for a company that offered one. Okay. And the first thing I did with the new hire paperwork was look at the 401k, find out what the match provision was, and signed her up for the Roth 401k because she had the option. Okay. And had them take out as much of her paycheck to meet the match. And she's like, but Mom, then my paycheck is going to be, and I'm like, I don't care.
Start.
This will make a huge difference to you in your future.
Pay yourself first.
Pay yourself first.
Absolutely. It is, I would say, and I don't, how you handle this, but if you are somebody that's not comfortable in the financial world, find somebody that is. It could be a neighbor. It could be a parent. There's a statistic out there that, and it's over 50% that there's not conversations happening at home about financial services. And so if it is, or financial literacy. So if you are not from a family that talks about it, find somebody else. And it could be a financial advisor that's willing to have conversations and teach, because that's where their heart is.
Right. And that's, that's how you and I roll. I think that it's important. I think everybody's entitled to information and knowledge. And, quite honestly, I would rather they get the information from somebody like us than, Bob at the water cooler.
Yeah. Barb, I'll tell you an event that we did this last fall. There's a guy that I work out with, and he is one of our clients, and he is a big advocate for community. And he's the person at the gym that's always getting people together. And so we work out next to each other a lot of mornings. And he said, let's get a bunch of young investors together and let's have just education for them. And so we had an entire evening where we had like 23 young investors that were anywhere from 16 on up to 23 years old.
Awesome.
We did a short presentation. We did tacos so that it was easy. It was very relaxed. We let them ask questions. We did a panel at the end, but it's so much to know that there are resources out there in your community. And if you don't know someone, just ask. And, you know, financial advisors, we are so willing to share along the way. And so you don't know if you don't ask.
No. And it's important to take the time to ask. This is literally life changing.
Yeah.
I mean, we both know people, we've encountered people that have come to us for help that were going to have to drastically change their lifestyle when they retired, if they retired, because nobody came alongside them and helped them. You know, you and I both work with a lot of federal employees.
Yep.
And I mean, how many have you guys run across that come in and they show us their thrift savings statement and it's been in the G fund for 30 years?
Yeah. So often you just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And people also simultaneously here don't like conflict. They don't like to talk about certain subjects. They have been conditioned that finances are taboo. You don't talk about it with others.
It's more taboo than sex.
Yeah. Especially in today's world that we're living in. And so there they are at age 60 or 65 and
nobody told them.
Yeah. I still remember investing in my 401k, my first job. My parents talk about finances. They are, you know, we always had Money Magazine and things like that, but it wasn't them that, you know, told me what to do and sat down. We were after work, just chit chatting. And I'd been there maybe 2 weeks. And the individual asked me, have you set up your 401k yet? I'm like, I haven't got it done yet. He's like, let's just do it real quick.
Yeah.
All it took.
Let's do it now.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes you just need somebody to help take that first step.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I have had women that sat across the desk from me and cried because they didn't know.
Yeah. And let's talk about that women side of things. I think that there is real value in working with an advisor who recognizes where you are, good or bad, no matter how you feel, but somebody that can meet you where you're at right now, because that's what's empowering. It's knowing that that advisor has your back and will take you from where you're at right now and get you where you want to go.
Yeah. And, you know, for women, I think that a lot of them feel more comfortable talking to another woman.
Yeah.
And, you know, for every advisor that looks like you or me, there's 4 or 5 that look like your husband.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And it can be intimidating to sit across the desk. It's a whole lot easier to come alongside, take them by the hand and say, I've been there. I understand what it's like. You know, when I was married, we went through a situation where my husband went, you know, he had a big lump on his back. It looked like he was carrying a softball in his pocket for years. The doctors told him it was benign and when it bugged him enough to take it off. Well, true to form, by the time he finally got it removed, it was 4 by 5 by 3 inches, but it wasn't benign. It was cancer.
Yeah.
And while he was in the midst of cancer treatment, because my family has a history of breast cancer, my doctor said, I want you to go get a baseline mammogram. And so I went and did that. And there was a large shadow that thankfully just turned out to be somebody not knowing how to put me between the plates. Okay. But in that moment, when the doctor's office is calling and saying, we've scheduled a diagnostic mammogram for you, there was a large shadow, we're not sure what it was. I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I have a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old. And you're telling me that both of us could be down for the count?
Mm-hmm. I think you bring up a good point in that, Barb.
Yeah.
Especially as parents with young kids, that is hard to digest if something was to happen to one of the partners, two in your case.
And we procrastinate that because we're taking care of the kids.
You got it. I went through an activity this fall, and there were many things I didn't like about it. But what I did like about it is it forced me to think about where we were at. And if something happened to one of us, how would we respond? And I found over, a period of time and going through this activity that we have our estate plan in place. We have a succession plan for our business. We have taken care of pretty much everything that we can. So we have controlled what we can control. It gave me peace, even though you never want to think about if something was really did happen, but it gave me peace in knowing that my kids, there is a plan and they would be okay.
Right. And it's the plan that you put together, not the plan that the state with their state intestacy law says, this looks like a good idea.
Yeah. And so I think that's another piece, as we talked about what can you control and what advice would we give, it is not just about the investment management side of things. Finances touch so much more. We like to say that we really do a lot with the estate planning and the tax side of things, because every financial decision you make
impacts those.
One of those two.
You and I both run very holistic practices where we're looking at cash flow, emergency reserve, income. And with that income, you've got to look at the fund money and the old age planning and all of that, tax remediation if you need it, and estate planning. Because if you're not looking at all of it, it's like only eating green vegetables. It's good for you, but you're missing out on so much more.
Yep. And so I think that's another piece of advice that I would give is get your affairs in order, even though, again, people are so hesitant about certain topics in life, one of them being estate planning and what do you want this to look like? I know that my parents did not have an estate plan in place while we were young. And I think, and we didn't know this until much later, and being in this industry, I was like, how is it possible you had 4 kids and you didn't have a plan for us?
Yeah.
Do it.
You want to hear something interesting?
Yeah.
This population has a 100% mortality rate.
Yeah. Just when is the question. And so be ready, control what you can control.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, it has been, I have wanted to do this with you for so stinking long.
Oh, I feel like I could just keep going. I don't know where we're at on time here.
We could, but Tony's like going to go, what did you do?
Well, I think just as a high level, just remembering that women have different preferences than men. They are, everybody plays a certain role within the family, but controlling what you can control, being proactive, all of those things are such a key.
And we have different needs. We live longer. We tend to put off our own self-care and take care of everybody else, which can frequently mean that by the time a problem is discovered, it's a big problem.
Yeah.
And we need to prioritize making sure that if you live too long, die too soon, or get sick somewhere in the middle, you've got those bases covered.
Absolutely. And I think just one more statement here is the financial services industry as a whole, maybe is playing a little catch up as it relates to talking to women and being able to meet them where they're at. And Barb, you run an independent financial services organization that you're not controlled by a larger organization.
Right. I don't have somebody telling me what I have to sell, who I have to sell it to, and by when I have to sell it.
Exactly.
And you're the same way. We can find solutions to meet people's needs.
There you go.
And for those of you listening, you can reach out to me at area code 913-553-6222 or go to the website anchoryourretirement.com. Nikki, how do they get a hold of you?
Oh, thanks so much for asking. You can reach us at paladinfinancial.com. Paladin is Paladin, saveharbor.financial.com or 651-842-8406. Barb, thanks so much for having me a part of this.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It's kind of funny how between Kansas and Minnesota, we had to come to Nashville to get it done, but we did it.
So there we are.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Barb.
We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Anchor Your Retirement. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound retirement plan. For more information, please contact Barbara Gulin at Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group. Call 913-553-6222 or visit them online at anchoryourretirement.com.
Advisory services are offered through Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Kansas. All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.